Okay, so yesterday we talked about how things are working in Angular, and we saw some basic stuff like how to create a form. No, no, sorry, not this one. Uh, we created some to-do list, like how to create it. So it started with component, how to create component. Then we registered that in module file, and then we were able to call something on screen. Then we also tried to create this kind of structure for that, and this was again just operation on array where we were doing these stuffs, pushing into an array and deleting from, not even deleting, we just filtering out. So we actually didn't delete anything from the array, we just filtered it out. Whatever ID we send from the front end, it gets filtered from the list, so filter kind of ignoring it. Then we also learned how to pass data from parent component to child component. So if we have a parent component, so there definitely there must be some variable which has to be passed to child component. So this is the thing, wherever you call the selector of that child component, pass that key within these square brackets and whatever data on right side. It's like assignment of to a variable. Now, when you go to a child component, so first of all, you have to declare one at input. So we are just telling in advance that this is a variable which will come from the parent. Make sure that this the name you are using here, like you can call it a key. So the key name should be same. And I've initiated with 0 because I know it's a number type. Data equals to 10.
Okay.
And then finally how to use it. We have a key. Just use that on a table with either you can use to print it or want to use it further. So use it in further process. So this is how we send data from parent to child. And next was two-way binding. This is really helpful when we are dealing with forms. So it's like when you write anything, so right away it prints everything on web page. So we saw something like this. So as we're typing, it is coming right away on the screen. And this is our to-do list. Where things adds up. When you click, it gets removed. Okay, and then we remove. This is how it removes. And 10 is coming from the parent component. Okay, this is from previous class. Today we will see forms in Angular, or how many tabs are there. So we are talking about form types in Angular. Okay, so we have two form types in Angular which is supported by Angular basically. So one is template driven form. Template driven form. And next one is reactive form. So definitely they have some pros, some cons. So when we write, when we execute the form, when we use the form, then we will get to know how to, use it or which one is better. So, okay. So when we are going to implement this whole process, so it works. First of all, we have to understand how to make form, right? Then next, how to get data from the form. That's one question, right? First of all, you have to understand how to create a form. There must be some syntax. We have to use certain keys and things. Then once that form is ready, so how to get data from the form. Next is how to add validations, right? That's one important thing. When you're working with forms, so you have to understand how you have to learn how to validate your form. Next, if there is some error, so how to show errors. So we're just discussing some basic stuffs when we are dealing with forms, so you have to take care of all these things. So how to show error messages. Then after this, once everything is handled, we have a form, we know how to get the data, we can add some validations, we can show errors if there's something. Next is how to call API. This is the agenda, the whole thing why we are learning Angular, to call API. So here we will integrate it with Spring Boot application. Okay, and then finally, if required, how to show, you know, pre-filled form. When you load a form, sometimes you have noticed multiple website gives this option. If you have your data, so that form can also show up all the like earlier data, whatever you have filled, it will give you that all data in front of you. So pre-filled form, how to get that? So we are going to perform. We will try best to cover everything, but yeah, definitely some part of these six statements. Yep, six statements we will try to cover in our Angular class. So how things will work? I'm just giving a rough, or you can say a high level picture how things will work. So this is for Angular forms. This is our agenda with the form. This is what we're going to do. Once the forms are ready, then I'll say data flow with forms. Okay, this is our next question, like how data will flow. So remember when we were doing Spring Boot, so I gave you a MVC design pattern,
Yeah.
controller, service, tower. So something similar I'm going to write here. So first box, let me write it, then I'll put them in a box. So first a template, we're going to write with template. Then we will write a class because Angular is based on TypeScript. TypeScript supports classes. Then class, from the class it goes to service, right? And definitely when it goes to the end, so backend basically. So that's the end thing. Or yeah, backend is fine. You know what? It's going to be backend here. Spring Boot again. I'm writing. In short, I'm writing SP for Spring Boot. So this is what form will do, and that's the idea. When you think about when you log in, so you must have some form that language is supporting. So some classes, some service level you will write, and eventually that API will be called to the backend. Same thing we are going to perform here. So arrow goes from left to right. Nothing special about it. So this is what we are going to write in future. But today we will just learn how to create forms. That's the one thing and the important part. So if I have to explain what's happening here, let's say template which says create a form and give like all data using fields, right? This is the idea. This is what we do. When we create a form, we give all or give or enter the data by using fields. When we have a class, so what that class will do, it will take the data from the form and collect it, um, take data from the form, collects it, and forwards it to the service layer. Yeah, that's what we saw in our backend in Spring Boot. We have a controller, then what we do, we instantiate service and pass our data to service layer. Service to what? It do some kind of logical stuffs. And then we have service. What this will do? Just writing one line, so you have idea of what's going to happen. Then here we write, come on, APIs. Right, this is a place we write APIs to connect with backend. In short, I'm writing BE, backend. So this is the high level picture, and definitely it's not uh, only part of our development. We have to create multiple other files as well. So that we also consider while working on it. Okay, so let's start with this first type, that is template driven form. Go to create a form. Let's save it first. Okay. template driven form. Okay. Hmm. So when we say template driven form, what does it mean? So it means form handling done at template site. Okay. What does it mean? Let's say that is inside the HTML form. So here we are calling this HTML form as a we are calling HTML form as a template. So that's one you can say abbreviation for it. HTML form is also known as template. So where we do all the things, form handling happen at template side within the HTML. So we will see how what does it mean, how we can do all that handling part. There's a note which you should consider. See, doesn't matter how much you knows. Ultimately, you have to work with forms, so you should know the key things. So another note you should remember here that we will use ng model. Okay, why? For binding the fields to the form. So ng model for binding the form fields to the form. This is what we are going to do. Okay, so let's start with this. This much theory is enough. Now we can start with the coding part. Okay, just give a minute.
So dynamic or
Okay,
in non-dynamic way है ना ये कि different है
dynamic means what do you mean dynamic?
लाइक वो जिसमें हम लाइक हार्ड कोड नहीं करके लाइक हम कुछ
Form is not about dynamic, not dynamic or static. Form is just a medium to get data from the user, to collect data from the user. Now it's up to you whether you want to just display it or want to send it over the network to other side. So form is not about dynamic or static part. HTML is static language. Don't mix it. Okay, it's different. What are you thinking? There's no even case of thought about dynamic or static part. It's different. Okay, server is running. Let's stop this first of all. Let's close extra forms or fields. Close all. Okay, and this is our structure src app, and then inside app we have multiple components. So I'll go again. I'll say ng generate component and then src. Oops. Okay, src. Then what we have app. Okay, then ng generate component and what should I call this? Let's call this test driven form. TD form. Okay, I'm calling this a test driven form. Sorry, template driven form. This is my component name and it will get created into uh, app folder or app directory. So 4 files and 1 update in module file expected. So that is fine. Let's take a screenshot of it because now we are learning about how we are going to create template driven. So actually we are learning forms in our case. So you should know where things are. And then this is the place where things are. Okay, this goes here. Okay, and then we have this app module ts, and we can see it is imported here, dd form component. Okay, so everything is fine in place. So why I'm keep posting these images or pasting here on paint? So these images should be clear to you. This is project structure, and this is our module file. So app.module.ts. Okay, so we have our file ready. Let's create name, paint, save it third image. Okay, going back to the code. Okay, no, I don't need this file. Close it. So we will primarily working on HTML page and TS file. So even before working, working on that, I have to make sure that I'm able to call this HTML page. So how to do that? We have to check the selector of this component. So it's app td form. So I'll copy this name. We'll go back to the main component or root component, that is app, and here again I'm going to comment this out. So I'll just cut this line, paste here, so things will be commented till now. So only I will see the form. Again, this is not mandatory, but to focus on other, I don't want you to get distracted by the contents. So I'm just showing only one form here. Okay, and let's run this. Oops, not here. And serve. Okay, service is up. If I go back, run the application, so let's say TD form works great. So we can see the HTML is working. I can remove it, and again let's generate some basic structure. So that's how we generate exclamatory sign and enter. Okay, so start with title. So this is now, oops, come on. So get working on template driven form. Just a title. So if you see, this will pop up on the tab name. Okay, on the title. Okay, next we need to create a simple form. Okay, so um, on TS, let's create one title first of all, or just a variable. I'm going to create string type because let's say um, same stuff I can use here, this template form. Again, I'm not going to use any CSS, so form will not look that great. Okay, and this can be also closed, not required. And on HTML page I will use interpolation. Title is here, file saved, and there it is. It doesn't look good. I want to make it bigger, so I can use h1 tag. H1 tag closed. Yeah, much better. Okay, now we have to create a form. So let's create a form. There it is. So with form we have multiple attributes. So first of all I will use ID. So I'll say login form. That's my ID name, and I will assign it to, like we used earlier, ngForm. This is one part of Angular. So we just assign that this is my key, login form is my key, and it's of type ngForm. Like we created title of type string. So likewise you can see I have created one ID of type ngForm. That's how you can read it. Okay, this is done. Next, I can also create one like submit button. So it goes in a event like this way. Ng submit. Make sure that you are not doing any typing mistake. It should be ng, and again it's a case sensitive. We already discussed this. The ng should be small. Submit s should be capital. And I can create one function. Let's say user. Let's say login. I'm going to create a simple login form, and within this okay, function, it's a function, so double quote goes here and this can be removed. Okay, here we have a key that is a login form. So login form dot, and We simply say value. We have used this thing. I'm using it third time in front of you. Okay. Now I'll create input type text. We'll use a placeholder. It will be enter, say username, and what else we can add? Um, Definitely the name. So it's going to be username, and then placeholder. Oh, sorry, not placeholder is always done. Yeah, I told you that we are going to use ng model in note somewhere I mentioned here. Ng model for binding the form fields to the form. So I'm going to use that ng model right here. So after this, I will write ng model and tag is closed. So our first tag is done and close this way. Then let me use br tag two times. Br tag. Okay, closing tag is done, and I can use the same line. I just need to do some minor changes. So this time it's going to be password. So I'll say password. It's type password, small p. It will be enter password, and name will be also simple password. Okay, and this is also use ng model. So we are using ng model, and let's close this tag. Already closed. Br again breaking the lines, and then I can create a simple button, and I'll just say login. That's it. So a form is ready, a simple form which is just showing two fields, username and password, not fields, actually text fields, and one login button. And or we can do one thing if you want. Okay, let's make it simple. I'll just keep this button simple without using anything, and then we will see later. So for now, I'll keep this thing inside of like this way. Okay, so our HTML page is ready. Now, how to get things on TS file. So it's pretty straightforward. We have to create this function user login. Here I'll create a form user login. It's a function and it takes data. So I'll say uh, user creds of any type because I'm not sure what kind of data is coming up. So I'll say any. Any is one of the type in Angular. So any. If you're not sure, just use any at least. But again, not a great way. You should always mention it what we are looking for. Okay, and then for now, let's just print everything on console.log and print that user creds. File saved. Okay, something is off here. Let's see what is that. Our login form doesn't exist on TT form component. Why is it? Oh, there's a typo on login. Okay, now it should be successful. Okay, so barely successful. And if I check the web page, that's how it looks. Template form, enter username, password, and login. So let me inspect and open its console, the browser console, and I'm going to enter some random username. Let's say uh, Peter, and password will be 12345. Okay, that's what I entered, and let's see login, and yep, things are coming up. So this is how we create template driven forms. So let's just conclude. You can see it's not that complicated. You have to make sure that you are using all these things which I have mentioned in the image. So let's conclude with the screenshots what we did. So initially we started with a simple HTML form. So I'll keep only body, or I think I can, it's not that big. I can copy this center thing and next paint. So this is our um, component name. Okay. So this is the page name. Okay, fine. Next is TS, and TS is not doing any complex coding for now. We are just printing anything which is coming from the printed side, and there it is, and its name is tds something form context. And once you execute it properly, this is our port. Oops, this one. This is how it looks. That's our first screenshot. And when we say it is working fine, so this is how we can see on console. So this is how we get the data. So this is our second step to verify that things are working great or not. Okay, so we call this template driven form. So key thing you have to make sure that you are using ng model, and when you have to send data, make sure that you are using hash, that is id of that form, login form. This is the key thing here, login form, and that should be used here. Can we change the color name, color type, I mean login? Yeah, this goes here. Okay, and whatever comes up we are using here as a any type. So we're not explicitly mentioning what is there, it's just any type, because even we don't know what's the type of it, at least on the JS side or so TS side. Okay, so that's it for template driven form. And now next thing could be when we say when we have a form, so you know validation is required, how we can validate. So that's one thing which is always a case. So we have to make sure that how we can validate the stuffs. Okay, so I'm just thinking, should we cover it now or what's the time? Okay, fine. Mm. Okay, so you said, should I uh, rewrite this example or should I create a new component for validation part?
और नेक्स्ट में करेंगे आई थिंक दैट बेटर
I can refactor this, huh?
या
Okay, so okay, let me add one more column here for email. Okay, so that will be also great. So here you can see one of the type is email. So that
या
means HTML developers, they gave us a luxury to have a column of type email. So you are only allowed to pass email only. Correct? Okay, so let's see for first of all how it looks like on web page. So okay, I need to verify, update this message. Now it is enter email. Okay, okay. So username. Let's see again Peter 12345 and some. Let me write some random text for now. Okay, and you can see we are getting these stuffs. Okay, password. Okay, that field was different. It was password, so that's why it was overridden. So things are working fine, and we are using the form. Fine. Now we have to perform validations. So you can see we are not getting any error or something on the form or on email, right? So what we can do, first of all, even if I first validation should be if I click login. Can you see all fields are coming empty? And usually this is not a case. Think about on a web page when you click on login or any submit button, it asks you to give IDs and password and if there's email, right? They do some basic validation that you should enter something to validate. So first thing should be that you have to make sure that user is clicking or entering some data in username, password, or email. How do we do that? We can make them to enter into the field by using required. Okay, so this is the thing I'm going to use in all fields. Okay, now let's see what it says. So I just made it required. Again, it's come empty. Okay, so that means it is not working. The required is not working at all here. And so what else we can make it? We can create some kind of what you call that, um, let's say some validation we can add, or a logic usually, because this is again not a properly written form, so that's why required is not working. Usually it works. So to support that functionality, we have to write some logical sections as well. Okay, so first of all, let's enhance the uh, code here. So what I'll do after adding these things, I want some, you can say, customized approach. So for email, let's pick email here. We have input type email, and it is required. That's great. Now we have ng model type. Now what I'll do, I'll give one ID here. Let's say we are going to give one ID. Again, it should be unique throughout a form. So I'm using one ID email. So that becomes my ID, email, and I'll say ng model. Okay, this is the first thing when you have to validate a form. So what we just did, we created one ID hash email. Again, that's a unique, and I'm assigning it to ng model type. Okay, type is email. That's fine. Ng model is used. Great. Class. Now we have to use one class. Um, we are going to use it in our CSS file. Okay, so this class I'm going to use in my um, CSS class. So, or okay, let's make it simple. Not now, because this will add a CSS concept here. Leave it. Okay, so name is fine. Did this. Okay, now after this, just below that, not even breaking the code, here I'll say I'm going to create a tag span. Okay, in span, I'll mention something. I'm going to write a logic part here. Asterisk ng if. Okay, and here I'll say email. That's the ID I'm using. Email dot invalid. Okay, so if it is invalid, and if user clicks on that field, so for that we can use touched. Okay, when user clicks on that, so we will use one class, or if you want, you can create a class to show that in a red color. So I'm not going to use that, but for now we'll just use this span. So if this happens within this span, I will say email is required. Okay, let's try this one. Okay, nothing happened. Clicked and see. As soon as I click on this, let me reload again. When I click, okay, it's not working. But as soon as I click and goes out, see, this is the event we just triggered. Clicks and go back and says email is required. So you have to enter something. As soon as you enter something, it will be gone. So this is how we just verified that user is supposed to give that email. Likewise, you can enter, other things, and then you can give some more validations. Now, if you want to make that in a red color, what you can do? Okay, now going bit forward with the uh, CSS, not that big, just a small idea. So if I want to show this in red color, what I can do, I can use a style property, and I can say color equals to red, because that's the error, a warning kind of stuff. So now this message should come in a red color. So click goes out, and now it says email is required. How it is working? Because we touched that, we clicked on that. So when we click, it says touched. So if it is touched and it's not there, nothing is there, it's invalid. So it will print this message. Likewise, I can copy this message, and because password is required when you're giving it, and definitely if you, maybe form needs three things, so I can do the same thing with other types. I'll copy. This will be password. So naming conventions are important, so you have to make sure that you are giving correct names. Username, so this will be unique, and then I'll copy this username. User is invalid or touched. So it should say username is required. The password is valid or it is touched. So it say on password is required. It's user. My name is already there, and okay, let's see. I saved it. Going out. Username. Okay. Password. Okay. Great. It's working. Let me try to remove that required part from one of the field to verify whether it is really important. So I remove the required from email, formally loaded email, and see, now it is not working, right? So required is important when you are using this kind of approach. The template driven form needs required plus this whole structure. So if you want to validate, you are supposed to use the structure and it will work. Again, it's working. Okay, cool. It's working. Now, one thing you have noticed that this style is quite common, right? We are writing this in all three lines wherever we are mentioning it. So why not make it global or at least usable for all things? So what I'll do, I'll cut this out. I'll go back to CSS file. As of now, this file was empty, and here I'll say um, error. Create a body and paste here. Style is not required here. This is an inline thing, and okay, done. So what we just did, we created a CSS class, and if you want to use it, so you have to go back on your HTML form, create a template class, and say error. So if this activates, so whatever comes up in that span will get printed in red color. So I'm just replacing all the things. You can see I'm just mentioning class error, error, error. Okay, it's fine. Let's go back. Username. Yep, now it's working. If I want to make it green, so just need to change it in one place. Otherwise, I have to change it three places. Or think about if form has 20 fields, so I have to change it at 20 places. So if you want to make it centralized, just use this way. Green. Now click. Yeah, so all fields are coming in a green color. But it's an error, so red. So that's how we add global error, not error, global CSS to your component. So now doesn't matter where you are using it in your component, it can be used. But again, the scope of this CSS within the TD form component, not beyond of it. You cannot use this class in any other component, just within TD form component only. So let's pick what we did for validation. Paint on paint. This fourth. Again, same file. Or I can do one thing, I take the whole path of as well. So you can see src app 3D form, and then component and the error file. This is present here. And we haven't done anything in TS file. So just HTML this, and if everything goes fine, we should get this kind of message. Paint. So this is the output of it. Okay, great. But yeah, it's not like, stopping us to click on this. Although it is clicked, and we can see the event is triggered and email, password, or username, all things are blank. So that's fine. We are not using fully fledged validation here. We will do that when we are actually writing some API calls. But as of now, you have an idea how to add validation if we are using test driven forms. Sorry, template driven form. I'm keep calling it test driven. It's template driven forms. Okay. Um, I'll just stop here. Fine. So you can practice till this much, try to add CSS and stuffs, and I'll suggest go over with certain topics so you have idea. First of all, CSS, you know what we why we use CSS, right? So next you can check ways to add CSS. ठीक है, एक ये चेक करो कि कितने तरीकों से you can add CSS in your file in HTML, and उसमें फिर दो तरीके होते हैं, क्लास एंड आईडी, उसको ट्राई करो. और ways means here applying, and here we have to understand class and id in CSS.